Now we are recording. As usual, you can get extra credit for watching this video. The two ways you can get extra credit for doing this are to email me and say you've watched the video, or for you, Mallory, since you're with me online right now, you can just send me an email saying that you were with me. But for everyone else who's going to watch the video at a later date, you're going to need to send me an email that includes the attendance words or phrases. And again, Mallory, you don't have to send the words or phrases. You can just send an email. But the first phrase for attendance is going to be meeting, because we are having a meeting right now. That's the first phrase for attendance. And anyway, like I said, you're going to send that email at the end when you're done watching the video with all the attendance phrases or words. And the last thing in the email is you need to come up with a question based on the information that I'm sharing in this meeting. That helps provide evidence that you did pay attention to the video. And also, it's good for you to ask questions. Even if you think you know everything and everything made sense and everything that I told you made sense, come up with a question anyway. Maybe just to, I don't know, again, to demonstrate that you were paying attention. Anyway, the second way you can get extra credit is to summarize this video in the module 4 discussions. So go to the module 4 discussions and, post. Hold on, I'll just show you. Excuse me. Let me share my screen. That'll be easier. Let's see here. There we go. If you go to module 4 discussion, which I'm going to talk about shortly, just right here, add discussion topic. Just put extra credit, and then just summarize what's in this video. And that's how you get extra credit. Any questions about how to get extra credit? All right, let's jump into it then. I'm going to try to make this quick. Time is valuable. So first of all, I just want to let you know that I'm still grading. I have a lot to grade from Module 3. So my feedback based on Module 3 is a little bit limited because, like I said, I still have a lot to grade. I want to also remind you there's something called Achieve, right? So if you're missing any assignments or having any kind of issues, like maybe failing, I go to Achieve and officially document that. It doesn't hurt you at all. It's not nothing on your permanent record, but it does help you. That way, somebody from the university will reach out to you and see if how you can be helped. But also, I want you to know that I am here to help you. Like I know, for example, at least one of you mentioned that you're going to tutoring, which is great. But please let me help you. Like I can be your tutor. I'm the one who writes the grade or writes the exams, and I'm the one who does the grading. So I'm a really valuable source when it comes to getting help on this course. So please let me help you if you need it. I'll also want to remind you that there's extra credit for early submissions. If you forget what I'm saying, you can go here to the course announcements. You can see right here. If you turn in a lab on Monday, you get 10 points, eight points extra for Tuesday, 6 points for Wednesday, so on and so forth. And for the discussion replies, you'll get 3 points if you turn it in a reply by Wednesday or earlier, 2 points for Thursday, and 1 point for Friday. So I'm trying to bribe you guys basically to get stuff done early. As I mentioned to Mallory before we started grading or before we started recording, I like that because when you guys turn things in over the weekend, on Monday, my priority is to get things graded, right? I want you guys to have your grades, and I'm in a rush. And on that note, I'll also remind you I do make mistakes. So if you see something wrong with your grade, please question it. Let me know. Now, I will say this too, remind you this, I'm still grading. So until I post an announcement that says I'm done grading everything from Module 3, try to hold off on your questions if possible. But yeah, afterwards, let me know. I do make mistakes. Also, you guys make mistakes. So if you question your grade, either A, I made a mistake and I'll fix your grade and you get your points back, or B, you made a mistake and you'll learn from it. So it's a win-win. So let me know. And also, again, to remind you, I will give you a 5% boost to any assignment that you meet me online to get feedback, like detailed feedback. Of course, that doesn't include quizzes in which you got 100% because there's no real feedback to give you for that. And same with exams. If you got a 100% on an exam, there's no feedback I could give you. Anyway, any questions so far? Video screenshots, I'll just bring that up next week. That's not really relevant to this week because I don't think you have any videos that you have to do this week in which you have a form with questions on it. So I'll bring that up later. Let's talk about discussion 3, which is behind us. Basically the same mistakes, the same things I warned you guys about last week, or the mistakes that people were making. First of all, you have to use sources. You can click this link and read all about it. It's in the discussion prompt. You have to use sources. You have to use them properly for every initial post and every reply. You have to have a source. You have to make it obvious how you used your source. You need a working link to your source. That link needs to go directly to your source and not to a homepage. And I'll just use the same example I used last week, I think. For example, if you had an article from National Geographic, I need a link to that specific article. I don't need a link to the National Geographic homepage. Yeah. So any questions about that? All right. Some mistakes I did see, again, is that the initial post is always due on Wednesday and the replies are due on Sunday. So a lot of people are not doing their initial post in time. And if you lost points on discussion 3 and you didn't get a 0, but you lost points, that's probably one of the reasons why. Another reason is this, and I mentioned this last week, I'm mentioning it again. There's a difference between the government influencing population versus controlling population. And I mentioned this in the prompt, and I mentioned this in last week's meeting. And if you confuse the two, then you lost points. For example, if people said, I'm against population control and wrote about how they're against population control, and not that I like to share opinions, but I'm with you. I'm also against population control. But that's not what this question was about. Discussion 3 was about, it could have been if you wanted it to be, right? But the question wasn't asking you, how can the government control the population, right? So it's not like it has to be like the China one-child policy or anything like that, right? And that, again, using the example that I used last week, West Virginia is eliminating helmet laws. I think, I don't remember. I don't know if that passed, but anyway, they're eliminating helmet laws. So that is a way that the government could influence population control or population growth, because, if people aren't required to wear helmets, then more people will die and fewer people will reproduce, right? So it doesn't have to be control. And you did lose points if you made that mistake. So and that's really the only feedback I have for discussion 3. Those are the only biggest mistakes I saw. Do you have any questions about discussion 3? All right. Lab 3 was pretty straightforward. I think you guys did a very great job on lab 3. Just to refresh my memory, I'm pulling it up to try to remember what some of the biggest mistakes were. I don't remember. Again, I still have grading to do, but usually, and I don't know if it's this way for your semester, for you guys this semester, but usually people mess these questions up because the first question asks you how you think your footprint is compared to the world. And then the second one asks how you think your footprint is compared to the United States. And these two questions, those two answers need to match. So for example, if you think your footprint is smaller than the world average, then it would have to be much smaller than the US average, right? So that's usually something people messed up. And then same with these. These questions should also reflect, there we go. These questions should also reflect your answers here, right? So again, if you think your footprint is smaller than the world average, as an example, then obviously your number should be smaller than 1.71. Or if you think your footprint is larger than the US average, for example, then your number should be higher than 4.94. And that's usually the mistakes people make. Screenshots, that's historically a mistake. People forget to put the screenshot to prove that they did the online calculator. There's 2 of them. So far, off the top of my head, I don't think anyone's made that mistake in your course. Some people did fail to do this. You need to get the class average. You get that by clicking this link. You put your information here, scroll to the bottom, and there's the numbers you need. I have seen that mistake a couple of times this semester. And then graphs, another mistake I've seen, right? So, and it says it right here, 6 bars on the x-axis, meaning your bars should be going up and down, not left to right. You'll lose a point for that. It's not a big deal. So you're not going to fail the class for making that mistake, but just to make things proper, that's the way it should be. And I think that's the only thing I saw as far as big mistakes for Lab 3. Any questions about Lab 3? All right. We're moving right along here. Lab 4 then. Let's talk. So basically, that's it for my feedback for what happened in the last module. Again, I still have grading to do. But if you have any questions about your grade, please let me know once I'm done grading. I'll be happy to give you feedback. Now let's look ahead. Let's look at Lab 4. There's 2 options. Well, actually, technically, there's 3 versions. There's this one, and I'm really not even going to talk about this one because last time I checked, it doesn't even work. And I just still have it just in case. Yeah. All right, so let's not waste time talking about this one. So version 1 is not a feasible version because the website doesn't work. So let's talk about version 2. Where are we at here? There we go. Version 2. All right. So first of all, you need to watch a video. It's a quick video. It's 10 minutes. You're going to watch it and then you're going to write a little bit about it to prove that you watched it. Let's move past that. Basically, what you need to do in this lab is this is all about biomes. And you can read, right, here's a list of the biomes right here, right? And what you're going to do is try to predict what location, or excuse me, which biome these locations are in, right? So Institute was given to you. Institute is in a temperate deciduous forest. Therefore, and this is where people usually make this mistake right here, there's only one location for each biome, right? So there will be no other temperate deciduous forest, except maybe your location. That's possible. But you should only have something listed once. So temperate deciduous forest, again, other than maybe your location, should only be listed once. Same with any of these, right? Desert. If you list desert twice, you're going to lose points. If you list temperate grassland twice, you're going to lose points, right? So there's one location per biome. Now, again, these are just hypotheses, so you're not going to lose points if you're wrong, right? So if you guess that Alaska is a desert, and then it turns out that you're wrong, that's okay. You're not going to lose points. But you will lose points, again, one more time, if you list a location, a biome more than once. Any questions about that? All right, it's pretty straightforward. So again, I've provided you with a list of places. You guess what location they're in, and then you're going to go to a website to find that to figure it out. There's also some other hypothesis questions, and you can read all about it. I'm not going to waste your time talking about all of them, but for example, what of all those places, what has the highest temperature, lowest temperature, most precipitation, least amount of precipitation? Then there's some extra credit stuff too, like how many species do they have? Right? You can read all about that. And also, speaking of extra credit, you can also do more locations if you want. And obviously, in which case there will be, you can list the biomes more than once, but you can, do one extra credit location here, or you can highlight it and right click it and say, insert a row below, right? And keep doing that as many times as you want for extra credit, if you want to. Any questions about the hypotheses? All right. So again, once you've written down your hypotheses, then you're going to go to this website to find the answer. Excuse me. It's really slow too. I'll go ahead and warn you, and I'm sorry about that. If you can find a better website for me, list it at the end of the lab so you can get some extra credit for doing that, because this is not very good. But say, for example, I live in Scott Depot, so 25560 is my zip code. I'll click on that, and I can see right here where my information, right? So the precipitation, you can see this little bar, right? So the bars are the precipitation, so I can see what my precipitation usually is, and that's on the left. So the answer for me for Scott Depot would be like the lowest amount is, I don't know, that looks to me to be about 75 millimeters, and the highest, I don't know, 140 millimeters, right? And you're going to guess that. That's the precipitation. Then on the right-hand side with the dots, that's that's the temperature, right? So I can see here with these dots, looking at the right-hand side, the lowest temperature is, I don't know, maybe -1 Celsius, and the highest temperature looks to be, I don't know, 22 degrees Celsius. And that's how that works. And again, for the extra credit, you can also write down how many species there are, right? So you can see there's 20 plus 38 plus 58, and you could add that up and put that in there for extra credit right here, right? The number of species, that's what species richness means. And also really quickly too, again, for the extra credit, it also asks the number of endangered and critically endangered species. which is different than what's on here. So what you would do is hit this more button. There we go, and go to wildlife. There we go. And you can see here, let's see, threat filter. Sorry, it's been a while since I looked at it, but yeah, somewhere on here, it'll give you the number. It looks like to me, if I'm reading this correctly, there's just this one endangered species at my location. Yeah. And I think that is it. Well, no, here we go. Sorry. Again, it's been a while. If you click on this where it says threat level filter, you can see here that there are 0 endangered species and 0 critically endangered species at my location. So if I were filling this lab out, you know, I would put a 0 here. Yeah, and that's it. So any questions about that? All right. And again, to reiterate, be careful with the graph. It's again, precipitation is these bars, right? And you'll use the left-hand side of the graph for the precipitation, and temperature is these dots. And you can see here that would be on the right-hand side of the graph. And that's usually the mistake people make. Another mistake people make is this part right here. These are multi-part questions. Well, at least starting here, what was your hypothesis and was it correct, right? So make sure you repeat your hypothesis. Yes, I know that's a pain, but that's on purpose. I need you to reflect on your hypothesis. People lack the ability to reflect on their hypothesis, compare it to their data, and decide if their hypothesis was correct or not. It's very important. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that for now. No need to beat a dead horse. So yeah, make sure you do that. And also notice too, this is not a yes or no question. Was it correct? So the answer is it was correct or it was incorrect. So not yes or no. It's not a yes or no question. It's correct or incorrect. That's another mistake people often make. Then you need to make a graph. You have choices on any graph you need to make. You can read about making graphs from the first lab. The most common mistake I see people making still is that they aren't giving it a title, right? So your graph needs a title that describes the data, and the axes need to be labeled. And if it's a bar graph, the bars again need to go up and down, not left to right. And I think that's it. Also to remind you, you don't have to use like Excel or Google or whatever. You can do a graph by hand if you want to, and just take a picture and you know, highlight this and then insert, right, and then put the image, upload it there. But I request if you do it by hand, please use graph paper. I think that's it. But before I leave this discussion about the labs, I also want to point this out. Again, big picture, I've provided you with a list of places. You predict what biome they're in. There's also another version of this lab if you want to do this instead. And I'm not going to talk a lot about this. It's the same advice that I gave is mostly can be used here. But in this situation, I've given you the biomes and you try to guess a place, right? So I was like, all right, I'm going to try. I wonder, I think Greenland is a tropical rainforest. Of course, I don't, but right. So you would write Greenland right there. And then again, everything's the same, right? You go to the same website and see if your hypotheses were correct or not. So that's pretty much it for the lab. Do you have any questions about the lab, Mallory?
No.
All right. Let's move ahead then. Discussion 4. Let's really quickly talk about this. And again, I'll remind you, since I'm going through this quickly, I'm more than happy to meet with you for any assignment, right? I'm happy to hold your hand and walk you through an assignment step by step. So you don't have to go at this alone. Or I'm happy to meet you online for like 5 minutes and let me look over your assignment before you submit it. And then again, like I've already mentioned earlier today, I'm also happy to meet you after I've graded an assignment to give you feedback and a 5% boost. But anyway, that out of the way, this week's assignment or discussion, again, you're going to pretend like you're writing to a legislator and you're just going to talk about biodiversity, right? What is something the government is doing that you support? Or do you have an idea of something that they're not doing that they should do? It's that simple. Just make sure you sway your legislator, right? So you're going to try to persuade them. And I have this in the notes here, which I will also share when I share the video. You need to talk about, well, first of all, the whole purpose is to demonstrate that you understand the concept of biodiversity. So you're going to at least need to define it, but also then you need to explain, why is biodiversity important? Like, why are you wasting your legislators' time writing about this, right? Explain why it's important, and then explain why your idea is a good idea, right? Again, pretend like you're really writing to a legislator. You wouldn't just be like, hey, I like the fact that you guys have the Endangered Species Act. That's really cool. And just leave it at that, right? That's not good, right? You need to persuade your legislator, write some information. Yeah. And really quickly, again, I'll remind you, you need to use sources, use them properly. And then again, really quickly, I'm just going to point some of this stuff out. Obviously, if you make errors, you lose a point. Actually, I need to erase this. You no longer need to write it in a formal letter format. I don't care. It's up there, but whatever. I'm not going to deduct points if you don't write it in a formal letter format. Again, you need to indicate that you support something or that you don't support something that they're doing, or maybe come up with an idea of something they could be doing that they're not. You need to adequately defend your position. Again, like I said, you need to define biodiversity. You need to make it obvious how your idea of what the government should do or what they are doing now can impact biodiversity. And you need to talk about why it's important. Yeah, and that's it. And I would say this too, I mentioned this last week. This might sound counterintuitive, but I want things to be easier for you. I would, if I were you, even though I'm saying you need to defend it, you need to sway your legislator, I'm going to go ahead and tell you now, I'm not looking for a really long post. So if anything, like if your post is in fact too short, I will literally just reply to it and say, hey, can you add some more information, right? So you have nothing to lose. If you happen to be too short and you don't get the points, I will allow you to expand and get those points back. So don't worry about that. Just do the best you can. The only thing that you will get 0 points for and that you won't be able to fix, again, is not using references, right? You have to properly use your sources. Otherwise, you get a 0. And again, I'll remind you, if you get a 0 on any of your posts, you can make up for it by doing more than 2 replies, right? Just do as many replies as you need to get the full 25 points. Speaking of replies, again, we'll talk about this. Again, you'll lose points for errors. Again, I'm telling you, you don't have to write it in a formal letter format. So I guess that's an advantage if you watch this video, and because the rest of the students will not know that. Again, you're pretending now that you are the legislator, right? Someone's written to you, now you're writing back, and you need to indicate what parts that you agree with, which parts you disagree with, and explain why you disagree in general. And that's the idea here for the replies. I'm asking you to disagree. Even if you don't actually disagree with somebody, put yourself in the legislator's shoes and argue against what they're saying. Yeah. So any questions about Module 4 discussion? All right. We might be able to cut this for 30 minutes. That'd be nice. All right. So that's it for the discussion. Exam 2, as a reminder, it's due on Sunday. It's 50 questions, 50 minutes to take it. If you need more time, let me know. If you allow me to proctor your exam, like if we meet online and I can see you and hear you and see your screen, and I know you're taking your closed book exam, I don't care how long it takes you. Take all the time in the world. There is a study guide, just like there was last week or for the last exam. And once again, I'm not sharing it. I'm asking you to send me an email and ask me for the study guide. This helps me ensure that people are actually watching these videos. And those who are not are obviously going to not have the same advantage other people are. That being said, really quickly, once you get the study guide, you can go to discussion 4. Here we go. And once again, add discussion topic and maybe put like, I don't know, study guide. Yeah, study guide, right? And then if you have a question that you need help from your classmates from that study guide that you don't know the answer to, just post it here and I'll give you a little bit of extra credit. And anybody who answers your question will get a little bit of extra credit. Obviously, you're not going to get any credit if your answer is incorrect, but if your answer is correct, you'll get some extra credit. And you'll get even more extra credit if you're very specific about it. Like, all right, here's the answer to your question, and you can find it in chapter 5 and page whatever, right? So get really very specific, and you'll get more points. So, yeah, that's it for exam 2. And on a similar note, once exam 2 is closed, that means you are no longer allowed to retake exam 1. So I'll remind you again, you can retake exam 1. It's unlimited time, unlimited retakes. It's open book. You can redo it as many times as you want, but you have to let me know once you're done so I can go in there and adjust your grade, and I will average your your first grade and your highest grade. And again, if for some weird reason your grade doesn't get higher, then just don't email me, and you just keep your original higher score, and that's it. And then the last thing I'll say about that is once the exam is closed and you can no longer retake exam 1, then I'm happy to meet with you online and give you feedback on your exam and give you all the correct answers to the exam. And you're going to need that because the final exam is based on the first 3 exams. So you're going to, again, your first 3 exams are your study guide for the final exam. So that would be very important information for you. And that's all I have for feedback on module 3 and things to be aware of for module 4. Again, I just want to reiterate that I'm here to help you. Please let me help you. I know some of you seem frustrated and overwhelmed, and I don't want it to be that way. I'm here to help you, so please let me help you. And that's all I have. Mallory, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any.
And once again, I have forgotten again to do attendance words. We did one at the beginning, so now I guess I'll just do one more here at the end. And the last word, so the second word for attendance is exam. So again, I'll remind you to get the extra credit, you need to send me an email with the 2 attendance words and a question about the material I presented. And again, you can also summarize what I said in this meeting in the discussion for extra credit. And that's all I have.